right, welcome to week 7 of the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show. I'm Dan LaForest. That is Baylin Trujillo and AJ Brooks. Baylin, guys, week 6 did not disappoint. We had some great games. We had some incredible performances. We had some dudes all over the place. But I tell you, it's getting a little depressing. We are literally 4 weeks away from the end of the regular season. We got to start talking about playoffs here. I know FHSA has started releasing scenarios. I don't want to talk about it yet. I want to see some realism. I want to see what matchups start looking like. So we're going to start looking at that here in the next couple of weeks. But Baylin, week 7, absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I was more excited because a lot of these quarterbacks are performing at a high level. This week really showcased the quarterback position. Dan LaForest and the Orlando Touchdown Club recognized 2 standout quarterback performances this week in Noah Grubbs and Jack Riley from Windermere. So I'm excited to get into our dudes of the week because a lot of great performers happened. We had some Tuesday night action last night. Couple big time top 10 games and teams played. I think 3 of them played, 1 upset. Which now looking in the big picture, do not believe it was an upset because Evans is the real deal. But yeah, just exciting week of football. We had multiple games on Friday and Tuesday, and I believe one may have been Monday. So again, just a lot of football this last couple days. Some teams like Winter Park played 3 games in 8 days, just like Jones did. So just a lot of football, Dan, and I'm excited. And unfortunately, football is ending soon, but that just means playoffs, and that's honestly what we live for, and that's what we play for.
AJ, we're getting ready to get into our week 6 results. We have our big hits, new top 10. We have our Influencer Council Dudes of the Week. What are your reflections on week 6?
Week 6, I just think the reflection on week 6 is teams are kind of who we thought they are or who we thought they were going to be, so to speak. A lot of teams are getting better as the season goes on. I think it's very interesting to see how it all boils down, coming down to home stretch of the regular season, going into playoff play. So I'm just excited about it, man.
Yeah, and I've always said you don't know who you are till week 3, and you definitely know who you are by week 7. So let's get right into week 6. Guys, Oviedo had a big game. They took care of Wekiva 52-27, Baylin.
Yeah, awesome performance by Oviedo. Love again, what Coach O does offensively. I've always been a believer of him, especially when he's back at Boone and with Casey St. John and putting up massive records offensively and numbers and the whole 9 yards. And he did the same thing at Oviedo. I love this outcome. Wekiva, again, first-year program under new head coach and Doug Gabriel. And I know that they're going to get things rolling over time. I know he's really good at doing that and building teams. But right now, Oviedo is, they're at the top. They've consistently been good, just like AJ alluded to last week. This is a team that's lost to Jones 2 years in a row in the playoffs. This is a well-coached and well-oiled machine over there in Seminole County. So Oviedo takes the big one here, Dan and AJ.
AJ, Chance Nixon, the running back, 15 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, as a running back, anytime you can go over that 100-yard plateau mark, it's always a good thing. He did it on just 15 carries. So he was very effective, helped his team come away with a decisive victory on Friday.
I tell you what, that's again, Oviedo at 4-1 has got to be part of that conversation here. We know we got a couple big district games coming up here, but they're rolling really well. All right, guys, Merritt Island takes care of business against Ed White, 30-27. Baylin.
I didn't even know this. You just enlightened me on this score because again, I was so adamant last week for me picking Ed White. Maybe I should have said nothing and let you have maybe made my prediction right this week, or I would have been tied with AJ because he's got a 1-game lead on me. But wow, great work here for Merritt Island, and this is a big win for them because I was looking at Ed White's schedule and they had some pretty impressive wins when they were 3-1, and Merritt Island's kind of coast through their schedule a little bit, but hey, that's why you play the game, right, guys? So great job to Merritt Island. You got the dub, and you represent Central Florida here.
Note about AJ, Merritt Island moves on to 5-1 in that tough, that Brevard County area, but they got a special player, and hopefully I don't butcher his name here. Kevin Verpali, the quarterback, 15-25 for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, he was cooking Friday. He was in the zone, 15 for 25, like you mentioned, 220, 3 touchdowns. He's helped Merritt Island with this 5-1 record. I think they deserve a lot of credit. So shout out to Merritt Island. It's a program. Honestly, I didn't think they would be 5-1 at this point. So I definitely tip my hat to him. But Kevin, he was on Friday for sure.
All right, next big game. How about OC University? 5-1 now. Takes out Palm Coast at 4-1, 34-19 to get back on track. Baylin.
Yeah, I just wish that O'Galley game wasn't so lopsided because I still believe this is a really good football team here. Obviously, 5-1. I had a lot of people reach out to me individually after we made our predictions last week about Flagler Palm Coast and how we need to keep an eye on them and that we don't ever talk about them, and yet they believe that they're a top 10 program. And then OC University did what we all thought they were going to do and kind of shut that talk down. So not taking any credit away from Flagler Palm Coast. Obviously, 4-1 is really impressive. I do believe their only loss may have been to Mainland, or they may have beat Mainland. I'm not sure. I knew there was a close game in there. No, obviously they beat Mainland because they were 4-0. But OC University, they did what they had to do Friday night. They got the 2-score victory here and kind of quiet down those Bulldogs for a little bit and their fans. But OC University Titans, they got back on track where we thought they should be.
AJ, let's talk about Anthony May, man. 26 carries, 224 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Usually we're talking about Malachi Waters and what he's doing in the air. But look at Anthony May.
Yeah, man, most of the time it is Malachi in that dynamic passing game. But Anthony May was able to get on the board Friday, 224 yards, 3 touchdowns. But now I'd be remiss if I didn't include Barrett Schultz. He had 4 catches and 2 touchdowns as well. So they still able to get it done in the air, but Anthony also showed another dynamic to their team offense, getting it down on the ground.
And guys, you did mention Mainland. Congratulations to the Bucks. They got their first win of the season in dominating fashion this week too. All right, how about East River against Innovation? Innovation's a brand new program. They both were looking really good, but East River takes care of business, 38-7. Baylin.
Yeah, I'm impressed with what East River's doing. Coach Chappell over there. I love his philosophy. We actually sat down at a lunch when he first got to Edgewater as a quarterback coach, and I got to communicate with him, and I love his philosophy on football. I think they got the right man for the right job at East River as their head coach. This is an impressive win. And, yes, Innovation might be a new program, but that coach is not new to football. Coach Kennard has won a lot of places, especially at TFA, for a long time. I believe Innovation is 3-3. That's pretty unheard of for a new program to actually even win 3 games in a season. Usually it takes a couple of years to even get that first victory or, even close to even 3 wins. But he's done that. He's done a great job at Innovation. This game could have been a toss-up last week in our predictions, but we both got East River correct here, and they won in blowout fashion. So great job to East River and those Falcons.
I tell you what, AJ, I know you're starting to put together the Elite 100 All-Star game here, and we know East River's got a few dudes, but check out Elijah McCluster, the young guy. 6 carries, 143 yards, and a score.
Yeah, I believe Elijah's a sophomore. He's a young fella, so he still has plenty of football to go. But as you see, the theme continues. Last week was the week of running backs. Running backs wanted to show their dominance throughout Central Florida, and Elijah showed it. Like you said, 143 yards only on 6 carries. That's efficient. So, yeah, shout out to E. McCluster right there.
All right, Deland Bulldogs entered our top 10. They fall to Spruce Creek. Spruce Creek had to get a little momentum back, and they got it against these Bulldogs, 48-13, Baylin.
Golly, I know they lost. I didn't realize it was by this. I mean, holy cow, what happened there? So I need to see the tape on this because, Darlington, with the defense that he usually runs, and, in that offense that controls the clock, not many people can put up 48 points on Deland. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, unless everything was just working Spruce Creek's way and they just scored at will, I did not see this score this lopsided. Obviously, I picked Deland to win this football game. You guys made me a believer in Deland. They entered our top 10, and unfortunately, they're probably out of that in this new updated rankings. But Taj Moore is still one of my favorite players, a young guy, a freshman. He's a special talent that's going to probably play in that Elite 100 game at some point in his career. I know he's going to be in multiple conversations for Players of the Week throughout his career as well. He's got another 3.5 years. But Spruce Creek, man, we kind of forgot about them for a while with their first loss of the season. I think that they might creep into the top 10 in the next couple of weeks. This is pretty dominating, guys.
Yeah, AJ, we didn't have any stats on Spruce Creek players coming into the show, but, Taj Moore, 16 carries, the freshman, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty good effort in that loss.
Yeah, Taj Moore, he's special, man. We could just say enough about him. He's sniffing 300 on less than 20 carries, so he's so dynamic. Creek is a senior-led team. We weren't able to see any stats, but I can only imagine Tony Kessler had a big game, Cameron Chamble. So they do have some studs over there. Obviously, they took 2 back-to-back losses going up to Camden County, losing to a very quality team over there with Coach Rowland. But then coming back home the next week, and maybe they had some of the effects of that defeat, losing to Titusville, because that was a game that I thought that they should have won. But they bounced back, defeating a good Deland team, 48-13. So, yeah, Spruce Creek is definitely a team that we got to keep our eyes open to.
No doubt about it. And this is one of the teams that I talked about at the beginning of the season. I thought Coach Andy Price has a really good squad over there, and I expect them to really make a strong run here toward the end of the season. All right, our number 1 team in our private schools, Masters Academy, falls to Providence School, 51-34, Baylin.
Yeah, this is the game that separated AJ and I. I know it shows that I predicted Providence, but I actually went with Masters here. AJ called this one right. Masters was going back and forth with Providence all game. I was getting updates through Jackson Setcher's dad. At one point, they were winning. At one point, it was 37-34 going into the fourth quarter. So it looked to be like, again, who has the ball last? And then all of a sudden, Providence just went crazy in that fourth quarter. I think they had 3 stops back-to-back and scored on all 3 possessions. Kind of got ugly for Masters. I just think the depth at Masters kind of hurt them, especially against a good Providence team up in Jacksonville. I believe this team also beat Masters last year, and one of their only losses last year. So, man, this is a great test for Masters. Obviously, I still think they're the favorite to win the state championship again in their league. Providence is not a part of that league, but just know that Providence has something working, and they kind of got Masters' number in the last couple of years, so they got the formula. So if anybody wants to know how to beat Masters, you probably want to watch that film.
AJ?
Yeah, it's not that easy, man. Providence does have a quarterback. He's about 6'2", 6'3", 230. So he did carry the ball 26 times. He had 230 yards and 6 touchdowns. So it was a one-man show.
Quarterback.
Exactly. So, unless you got a 6'2", 230-pound quarterback who's a senior, and I just figured that he would play a big part down the stretch in that victory for them. That's why I went with Providence last week. But Masters still a quality program. They just got outdueled by an older cat, so to speak.
No, I don't disagree, man. Coach Kruzek has got it rolling over on the Smurf turf over in Oviedo. All right. West Orange takes care of business, goes 5-0 against Apopka, 25-7, Baylin.
I picked West Orange in this game. I need to start updating these graphics, man. I knew West Orange.
I really wish you would.
Huh? Yeah, no.
I really wish you would.
No, I know. You do a great job. But I did pick West Orange in this game, just like AJ. They convinced me about the secondary, even though Popka's mainly run. I just think West Orange at the time, obviously, they were rolling, and we called it right. Brian Dillard is the difference maker in this football game. I believe he threw 2 touchdowns, also caught a touchdown in this football game, was thrown by AJ Chung. It's hilarious how they do the dual quarterback system there. AJ comes in and he's throwing to Brian, and Brian's doing everything for them offensively. Obviously the secondary and the defense shut out Apopka for a majority of the game to only score 7 points. I believe they also got an interception, a key interception late in the game. So I think West Orange, again, unfortunately last night they lost to Evans, which I don't believe we were covering in this recap, so we can talk about it now. They just, I believe this was a big emotional victory for them, and they just ran into a team that's hungry, and they lost last night, I believe, 39-13 to a good Evans team. But, yes, nothing to take away from this rivalry game. Apopka needs to figure things out, man, because it's not looking good for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and the thing is Apopka would have won this. They would have clinched the district. It kind of opens up a wild race because Apopka's district games were a little bit earlier. West Orange, this is their first district game of the season.
Oh, wow.
And obviously you start taking a look at their district, it's going to kind of clump up a little bit. And especially the last few games, Apopka's kind of setting their destiny with their district schedule. AJ?
Yeah, looking at Apopka's schedule the remainder of the season, it's one of the tougher schedules in Central Florida, if not throughout the state. So I'm not sure. I know out of district they still have to play Cocoa. They still have though they still play Seminole. So like I mean that's two bangers.
No, they don't have
there.
Seminole this year. They've got Cocoa, and then they go up to Boot Hill and play Madison County as well before they come back
That was
and
the other one.
play the Apopka Cup, the Mayor's Cup against Wakava.
Yeah, Madison County. That was the other out of conference game that I'm like, man, that and Cocoa, that's tough. But I mean, Popka is a Popka, so we'll see how they rebound. But yeah, West Orange, they look like they're gaining momentum. I know they lost last night, but Evans is a tough team. So we'll see how they're able to recover from that defeat.
No doubt about it. All right, Lake Mary goes into Hagerty. Baylin, Noah Grubbs had a big game, 52-3 over the Huskies.
Yeah, I watched this game on YouTube. I was at home. I was traveling to Boise State for the weekend and got to watch this crazy performance. All that happened in the first half. In the first 2 quarters, they scored on every single offensive possession, and Noah threw every single one of those touchdowns in the first half. Just honestly, Hagerty couldn't match them up front. They gave up way too many sacks. They were always behind the chains. They couldn't move the football. A lot of drop passes. It just didn't look like Hagerty football. But again, I want to give credit to Lake Mary because they came out like they were angry. Obviously, they just come off a loss, emotional loss to Dr. Phillips, a game they probably want back, but they got dominated in, and they said, screw it, we're going to go out and make a statement against Hagerty. And unfortunately, they just got the brunt of this. And then their backups came in the second half, and they were scoring points. So it was just out of control. Lake Mary controlled this football game. This is usually pretty tight. The last couple of years, this was nowhere near close at all, just watching it. And again, Noah put on almost a perfect performance. I believe of the 6 drops, 4 of them, or 6 incompletions, 4 of them were drops. So it could have been a near perfect night for Noah in the first half. 5 touchdowns. He was on pace to probably throw 10 or 11 to break a record, but they shut him down in the second half, rightfully so. And Lake Mary just comes away with this big, massive district win.
Yeah, and you got to give a lot of credit, AJ, also to that Lake Mary defense because Porter Williams has been running wild for the Huskies the last few weeks.
Oh yeah, Lake Mary defense was on point. 3 points given up. They dominated, like you said, losing to Dr. Phillips and to Lakeland. Lakeland is one that I think that they have a bad taste in their mouth because they should have and could have won that game as well. But they came out and did exactly what I thought they would, dominate. So yeah, Lake Mary, it looks like they trying to get back to the winning ways.
And then finally, our Varsity Sports Nation game of the week. St. Thomas Aquinas came into Bishop Moore and they took care of business 50-15, Baylin.
I mean, I wasn't shocked with the outcome. I probably was more shocked at the score. I mean, 50-15 is pretty bad. I thought it would be maybe like a 28-14, 35-21, 17, something like that. They dominated. I think, Dan, you even texted both AJ and I at halftime and said, I'm leaving. I mean, it was dominating. I mean, it's hard when you compete with guys that are in Broward County that's able to recruit kids of that caliber. I mean, that's why they're nationally ranked in the top 10 in the country every single year. And Bishop Moore, I give them credit for scheduling a team like this, putting them on their schedule. They didn't have to do that, but they said, we're going to do it. They did it. And unfortunately, this is the result. But I give credit to Bishop Moore for sticking up with their guns and competing. This was their first loss of the year. And I mean, shoot, they're not out of our top 10 because of this loss. This is actually, you get more points for that, for sticking up for what you're doing and doing it the right way. And you just went up against a Goliath that is honestly been the favorite in their classification every single year. So great job to Bishop Moore. Nothing to hang your hats out. And let's move forward and learn from this.
Yeah, and it couldn't be me texting you saying I'm leaving because I was actually calling this game on Varsity Sports Nation with Jared Oliver. So, there was I was there the whole game. Obviously I got to see a lot of the Bishop Moore players and also St. Thomas players before the game. I thought Bishop Moore played a very, very solid first half. Again, St. Thomas Aquinas. Sometimes you just play guys with more dudes. I thought Bishop Moore played a very good game. Really loved, again, AJ, Kenyon Austin, man, had a big game. 7 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, man. It's funny. It was me, Baylin. I was the one that texted and said I was leaving. Unfortunately, I do agree with Dan. I thought that they played a solid half. But I look up at the scoreboard and it's 43-8 at halftime. And I'm sitting here like, damn, what happened? St. Thomas Aquinas scored on the first drive. Julius Jones Jr., nice catch and run. But Bishop Moore came right back down the next drive, and they answered them. And it was 8-8. And I'm saying here, okay, we got ourselves a ball game. St. Thomas goes down the next drive, scores, and then Bishop Moore fumbles on the next two possessions, and they actually fumbled gaining yards. Keon Austin had a great game, but he fumbled on like a 15-yard gain on the sideline. And once St. Thomas got those two scores on those two possessions, that was the game right there. But Bishop Moore, they kept fighting. Bjorn Jurgensen, he had a great game. I think he only had 3 incompletions all night, had 169 yards. But yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas is the 9th ranked team in the nation. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no, listen, I thought it was a valiant effort. All right, guys. Well, listen, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have the Dudes of the Week, the Influencer Council Dudes of the Week, and then we're going to drop the new Big Hits Top 10. You're watching the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show. I am Dan LaForest. That is Baylin Trujillo and AJ Brooks. And let's get right into our Influencer Council Dudes of the Week. And let's talk about that offensive dude. Noah Grubbs, a junior quarterback out of Lake Mary, 13-19, 245 yards and 5 touchdowns, Baylin.
Yeah, we just mentioned our preview of the recap. I mean, he almost played a near-perfect game. It was all in the first half, which, again, that's some big numbers. That's usually a full game stat line, and that was all in 2 quarters. So he was playing like out of his mind. He was seeing the field. It looked very easy for him. Obviously, another great performance by his offensive line, who's yet to give up a sack in almost 2 years. Crazy stat line. People still call me crazy for saying that, but he still has yet to be touched, and that helps in these type of performances. And Hagerty's a great football team, but Noah went out there, did his thing, called it a night in 2 quarters, and was on the next flight to South Bend to watch Notre Dame beat Louisville this weekend. So it's been a great weekend and a great week for Noah and a bounce back from their loss against Dr. Phillips. And I look forward to having more of these performances as they close out the season going into playoffs.
AJ?
Yeah, Noah's Noah. I mean, he's cream of the crop, so I'm not surprised by this performance. Just he continues to add on to his legacy.
Yeah, no doubt. Noah also was named one of the Orlando Touchdown Club Players of the Week for Week 6. He'll be coming to the club here actually a week from Monday. All right, let's get in our defensive dude. And, guys, let's be real. Osceola had 104 yards total defense, shutting down Melbourne, only allowed 7 points. Baylin, Osceola seems to be getting better every week, and this is the team we keep saying you better look out at the end of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I was a believer at the Jones game. I mean, they could have, I mean, if they were smart time management wise, they kick a field goal, they beat Jones. So this is a really good football team here. You know, regardless of the funny things that's been said throughout the shows, I believe Osceola is definitely one of the top teams in Orlando. And like you guys mentioned, and Dan, you just alluded to it, this is a team you do not want to play later on in the season. Just like we talk about Apopka being that same type of way, this Cowboys team this year and how healthy they've been, if they just continue with consistent quarterback play, not so heavily always on Swint in the run game, this team could go really far and make a statement here in the playoffs, especially with that defensive line and that linebacking crew and the secondary. Just like we said, 104 total defense. This team is scary. So, yeah, this is not a team I want to play right now, guys.
AJ?
Yeah, the crazy thing about this stat, fellas, is at 104 yards that they gave up 74 on one play. So realistically, for the rest of the game, you're talking about a team that gave up 30 yards worth of offense. That's crazy. Mind-boggling.
That one play obviously was the only touchdown Melbourne had, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. All right, special teams dude of the week. And once again, and I'm telling you guys, we're not showing favoritism. Seminole is undefeated right now, primarily because of their special teams play. Outstanding performance. Robert Hampton, the junior defensive back, 4 tackles, had an interception, a blocked punt, and had a fumble recover for a touchdown, Baylin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care what these people say and if you perform, you're gonna get recognized. And Seminole continues to put on big performances by different people. I mean, every week, feel like someone else stands out for that program. That's how championship football programs are made. When you have more than just 1 or 2 people that are contributing to a big, massive outcome, you got 4, 5, 6, 7 guys contributing. I mean, it's scary. I mean, it's like you got an offensive player, then you got a special teams player, then you got a defensive player, back to special teams, then you got off. I mean, every single week. And it's not like they're playing cupcakes. I mean, guys, I would challenge Seminoles now. Again, before the season, I would have said maybe their schedule's a little bit more weaker than we normally used to for Seminole. No chance. Especially with the teams that they've been playing, like Monarch and some of these other guys. I believe that they are earning everything, and these guys are playing at a high level all around. So great job to Robert Hampton for his performance, an interception, block punt, for return for TD, 4 tackles. I mean, you put any stat line on that, any player like that across Central Florida, they're going to win do of the week for special teams. So great job to Robert.
Yeah, and not only that, I'm really looking forward to next week's show as we get ready for week 8. We're going to have so many good games to talk about, and someone's going to be part of that discussion. AJ?
Yeah, you're looking at, in my opinion, I know we say crazy things, but this got to be the best special teams unit in the state. Week in and week out, they get 7 to 21 points off of their special teams. As you mentioned, Lil Hemp, he blocked the punt, scoop and scored, recovered a punt, a bad snap in the end zone. I mean, they just find a way to get special teams points every single week. So, yeah, shout out to them.
No doubt about it. All right, guys. Well, we're going to get right into this. Obviously, there's a little confusion with our top 10 this week. So we're going to show our top 10. This is our official top 10. And let's get right up on that. And Baylin, why don't you go through the top 10 and explain it a little bit?
Yeah, so Evans got a big win. They're 4-2. They have close losses. Obviously, that Apopka loss hurt early in the season. But with their massive win over West Orange last night, Tuesday, which was a remake game, and in a convincing fashion against an undefeated West Orange team who not only was undefeated, but they blew out Apopka, the same team that beat them earlier in their year. Evans has seemed to be clicking. They lost to Jones as well. That's their second loss in a close game, 28-21 on a Saturday. You guys were there. I know AJ was there, and Evans showed every bit of competitive nature to be a top program and be trending that way. So 4-2, yeah, it might not be the best overall record, but they are trending in the right way, and their 2 losses are against 2 really good programs that they could have beaten and could have won. So they earned their right to be in the top 10 with a blowout win last night. Bishop Moore, they only dropped 1 spot. They played St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, come on, guys. Anybody these I mean, other than maybe Coco and Seminole and Jones, maybe TFA now. I mean, those guys really could compete, but we're not going to discredit that. I mean, Bishop Moore played great. Lake Mary rolling right now. Obviously, they just blew out Hagerty. O'Galley seems to be the conversation that I love to talk about every week because they keep rolling. They had a scare last week. It was a close game.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up, man. I tell you what, we haven't really talked a whole lot about Titusville. They had such a great season last year, but O'Galley, man, they squeaked by guys 7-3.
Yeah, I mean, I think AJ brought up Satellite beat or Titusville beat
Spruce Creek.
Spruce Creek. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're only looking at every time I think about Titusville, I think about Coco when they put up 50 on them early, but it's like that doesn't dictate who they are because Coco is that good. So they're obviously showing some stuff here. They beat Spruce Creek, and they could have slipped one against O'Galley, but they did not. So O'Galley still remains in our top 10 at 7. Edgewater moves up 2 spots after their blowout win over Winter Park last night. Oh my goodness, I think it was like 49-16. Completely dismantled them. Ever since the Jones loss, they are rolling offensively behind Carter Emanuel, which I love seeing, and your boy Josh Perry, who I absolutely love. I believe he's again 1-2 top running backs in the area. Dr. Phillips at 5-6-0. They roll. They beat Lake Nona last night, 34-7. It was the homecoming for Coach Aubrey. They were without their starting quarterback last night, though, and Michael Dove, who's the Navy commit. But shout out to Jason Stevens, stepped in at the quarterback role as a sophomore, did a kind of Houdini Patrick Mahomes touchdown, but that was about as much as we celebrated Lake Nona last night as Stanley took over that football game, and they beat Lake Mary. So they are a top 5 program, in my opinion, in our opinion. Then you got TFA. So this kind of gets crazy here. So TFA 6-0. They're I would say, what do we call that? Their controversy or whatever's happening behind the scenes was uplifted today. That is a legit football team. They seem to be doing everything the right way. So they are rolling, and now they got their 5 players back that were suspended for 1 game. And so that could be a top 1, 2, 3, 4 program as well. Coco's dominant. They're 3-2, but their 2 losses are against nationally ranked programs. Coco is the real deal. Seminole rolling right now, unbeaten, and they've blown out every single person except for Monarch, which they won in a crazy fashion. And then Jones rolls over everybody. They got their win Saturday against Auburndale. I believe it was 59-7 or 50-7 in a blowout win there, and they continue to roll. And they obviously beat Seminole, which is why they're probably right above them right now. So that is our top 10, in my opinion, on that. If you guys want to elaborate a little bit on some of these teams, that'd be great.
AJ?
I think the top 10 is solid. EG, I think being undefeated, I think their offense is a little spotty at times. I think they have a stellar defense, but the offense sometimes. The top 5 teams, in my opinion, I think that they would take turns beating each other. If they all played each other, I don't think that any one of them comes out of the gauntlet unscathed. I think that they all would beat one another. But that's just a testament on how solid all 5 of those programs are. But yeah, this is a great top 10. It's solid, strong, very strong.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, congratulations.
Real quick. My bad, Dan. On the lookout. We want to make sure we shout out Merritt Island. I know we mentioned them early in the season, in the segment, but that's a 5-1 ball club. That's a very, very solid ball club. Leesburg is another team, 5-1, 4-1, very solid. And then Spruce Creek. I know they took those 2 defeats, but I think they're coming along on the back end. And then Orange City University as well. So it's a lot of quality teams that could be in this 10. Honestly.
And I don't want to go through the show without recognizing where Windermere is at 6-0.
Windermere 6-0.
I love Windermere. That story.
Listen, we got so many great programs to discuss, and obviously you can't talk about 7 counties in 1 hour. But I still like Tavares on their track. Mount Dora still. We got some games to talk about here coming up. All right, Baylin, let's talk about the private school top 3.
Yeah, Masters Academy was at number 1 last week, but with their blowout loss, they moved down to 3. Obviously, again, we talked about, well, where's your top 5? Well, guys, you have to earn your way into a top 5. We don't think – Halifax, they're interesting, right? They're up and down. They could easily be in this mix, right? We can talk about that. But I think these 3 teams, you can't go wrong. Mount Dora Christian Academy, holy cow, I would love to go see them play a football game because if you look at their scores, it's outrageous. So I don't know what they got going on. That offensive coordinator has that program clicking. Obviously, the defensive coordinator is doing things also great over there. So I'd love to see one of those games. Melbourne Central Catholic has arguably one of the best athletes at quarterback, and he's a true quarterback. Brogan McNabb, he's a highlight reel every time he touches the ball. So, and then of course Masters Academy behind Jackson Stetcher. So this you couldn't mess with these 1, 2, 3s in our private schools. There could be Halifax Academy out there. But they have a big one this week, Dan, that we're going to talk about probably. And if they win that football game, they could easily be back in this mix, obviously, because I believe they play one of our top 3 teams in Melbourne Central Catholic.
Yeah, not only that, we will be seeing Mount Dora Christian at Masters Academy here in a couple weeks. So you're going to get your wish, Baylin. We're just going to see if you show up on the sidelines. That's what we're waiting to see, if you're going to be there for that game. So, All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get right into the big Week 7 matchups and get AJ and Baylin's predictions. You're watching the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show. I'm Dan LaForest. That is Baylin Trujillo and AJ Brooks. And we were just talking about Mount Dora Christian Academy. They host Christ Church out of Jacksonville, 5-0 against MC Mount Dora Christian, 6-0. Guys, hopefully I got your predictions right this week. Baylin.
Yeah, you definitely got this one right. I just bragged about them in our top 3 private school rankings. Mount Dora Christian Academy, this might be their best test up to date to this far. If you look at their resume and their schedule, this is an undefeated Christ Church Eagles team that's coming into Mount Dora. and playing these Bulldogs. I'm curious to see how this thing's going to turn out. I hope it's by a couple of scores to convince us that they are the number one team in this area in the private school rankings. But I'm just excited to keep hearing about this program, and hopefully we can start to talk about them a little bit more because they can compete for a state title. I mean, them and Masters is going to be interesting here in a couple weeks.
No doubt about it. And AJ, they actually start their state championship run a little bit earlier than the FHSA.
Yep. Yeah, they do. And I think that a kid that transferred from a major FHSAA program in Seminole, Frankie Hicks, is going to be a big time contributor for them. Shout out to Frankie. He's been great for them all season at the wide receiver position. So yeah, I like Mount Dora Christian to come away with a victory.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, the anticipation's building up because Mount Dora Christian and Masters always the last couple of years has been a great game, and looking forward to that here in the next few weeks. All right, we got the hometown showdown, boys. Oviedo Lions at 4-1 and heading over to Hagerty to pay the Huskies at 4-2. Baylin,
this is such a cool rivalry. I've been to a couple of these games, and to see the two programs like this, they're very close in proximity. Some of these players transfer between the two programs. Their youth programs are very competitive when they play each other. I'm excited. And of course I have Oviedo, as you guys see here, as my favorite to win this football game. I just believe what Coach O is doing offensively and how that team is rolling. It would be hard to see what I saw last week against Lake Mary, that Hagerty can compete right now with Oviedo. But I love Caden Mitchell. He's the most a polarizing quarterback to ever step foot at Hagerty. And, they're going to have to protect him this week if they want a chance to beat Oviedo. I mean, that's just as clean as it gets right there. They're going to have to protect him to allow him to make some plays with his feet and his arm to give those receivers opportunities to create space in the secondary to put up some points, because as we see, Oviedo can score and score at will. So it's going to take a lot of effort Hagerty's way, watch film, see how they can correct some little minor mistakes in the protection for Caden Mitchell. But Oviedo seems to be running wild, and those Lions are going to win on Friday night.
AJ, I think this is going to be a better game that we've seen the last couple of years between the Lions and the Huskies.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very, very competitive ball game. But I will have to agree with Baylin. I think that Oviedo will find a way in the second half to pull away and be victorious in this matchup. I like everything about Oviedo, Coach O. His track record is proven, and I like the Lions Friday.
All right, big game. OC University, again, 5-1. They've got to be lingering around, but they got a big test. You got one of the top quarterbacks in the state, if not the country, coming over with Jesuit. Comes into Orange City to play the Titans, Baylin.
Yeah, I know their record doesn't indicate how good Jesuit is, but I just think that with the firepower they have at running back, obviously the quarterback position, the Florida commit, I think that they beat OC University. Again, the only thing that I just can't get out of my mind with OC is just their lopsided loss to O'Galley 40-7. So, they're playing another great quarterback. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Malachi Walters, controls this offense. And then the running game went crazy last week. But I just think that the mindset, again, I think a lot of these teams that are bigger, they might not necessarily have the talent, that's better than OC. I don't think that, but I think the name and just the tradition, I think just for kids, it's kind of has like the psyche warfare that they have to battle with a big program like this coming in. And I just think that Jesuit just has a little bit more here. But I would love to see OC University pull off this win, obviously for Central Florida. But if I'm at the big prediction, I'm going with Jesuit.
AJ, that's a long trip on a Friday afternoon down I-4.
Yeah, that's a very long trip for Jesuit to have to make. And I think the game against EG is actually going to benefit University in this matchup because of the caliber of players that they saw against EG. I think that they'll be very prepared for Jesuit. They'll be at the home. They'll be comfortable. And I like them. I like OC University to come out victorious.
Yeah, I tell you what, this is going to be an exciting game to keep an eye on. Guys, this is actually an interesting matchup. You got to give a lot of credit to both of these programs. I love what Tim Dykes has done over at Winter Springs. They're 4-1. Coach Dykes has been building that program for the last 3 years. They've been 0-10 the last 2 years. Right now, Baylin, they're sitting at 4-1.
Dude, are you serious? I mean, I didn't even know that. I mean, I'm trying to look it up right now quickly before you turned it over to me, but that's actually really impressive. I had no idea that Windermere was 4-1 this year. Looking at them right now on their schedule, they are 4-1. They have wins over Celebration. They have wins over Liberty, Gateway, and Horizon. Horizon is probably their best win. Horizon's a very good program. They played West Orange really hard. They've been in some pretty tough matchups here. So, wow, great job to Winter Spring. I mean, shoot, based off track record, he might be already up for Coach of the Year. But, I mean, that's obviously later on down the road. But, my goodness, that's great for that program because they need wins. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even know because we don't talk about them, but that's very impressive. So I don't want to take anything away from Winter Springs. I just think that Space Coast obviously is going to win this game, and I need to do a little bit more research on Winter Springs, but I kind of made a prejudgment here and just went with Space Coast, and I think they're going to win Friday. But oh my goodness, I love it. Winter Springs, great job.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And AJ, I love what Jake Owens, Coach Owens, is doing over Space Coast. He's got their kids going 5-2 right now. We saw both of these guys at media days. It was so much fun to get to know these players, but you got to give a lot of credit. And obviously, a couple of these schools are getting a little bit more favorable schedules, which they should. Let them build their programs. But again, it doesn't matter who you play. It's how you put your guys on the field. Both of these guys are doing a great job, AJ.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Tigers and Coach Owens and Coach O, because at the end of the day, you have to win. And for them to be sitting at this point, a combined record of 9-3, call a spade, not many people would have guessed that at this point in the season. So great job by them. I think that Space Coast is I think they'll come out victorious in this ball game. I know they lost a tough game to an Astronaut a couple weeks ago, 19-20. So Space Coast they're showing they got the talent. And if you think about how close Space Coast is to Cocoa, it's not that far. So they should get some talent.
I love it. I love some of the changes that have been made in districts. I love some of the changes that have been made as far as independence, because again, I believe high school football should be competitive. And I think you should give programs the opportunity to schedule competitively. And I love what I'm seeing here. All right. Big private school game. We've talked about this. MCC is the number 2 team, but we've talked about Halifax Academy. I love what Ladarius Simmons is doing over there. And then you talked about Brogan McNabb over at MCC, Baylin.
Yeah, these are 2 quarterbacks that I'm blessed enough to see, in person. I do train Brogan, but I do know Ladarius is a special talent. And I believe he's leading this team. And I believe their only loss he actually barely even played in. So that was a big factor in why they lost that football game, where they could be sitting here 5-0. So Halifax is a private school that, again, we talked about for a short stint there until their loss, but they might find themselves back in the fold with this victory if they pull it off Friday night. But I'm going Brogan McNabb. I'm going MCC. I believe they're a very talented football team. They only have 1 loss in the season. It was obviously a lopsided loss, but I don't believe that indicates who they are. The TFA is a powerhouse now that we officially know that is a legit team. They are officially a powerhouse, and they just beat MCC straight up. But I believe Brogan McNabb has a phenomenal game on Friday, and he puts up crazy numbers. And I would not be surprised if this is not close, guys, in this matchup here.
AJ?
Oh, yeah, you're looking at 2 quality programs. I do think that MCC will have the advantage at home. I like everything about MCC. I know they did lose some talent with what's my boy name, went to West Virginia. Day left, but they had a lot more talent that we might have or might not have known about. So for those reasons, I like MCC to stand on business at home.
All right. We got some big game here. You've got, I think it's the number 17, number 14 team in Georgia in Rayburn Gap coming down to Orlando to play the Royals. Baylin, this is going to be an interesting game. The TFA coaches told me, you better be at this game, Dan. This is going to be the one we're the most excited about. Baylin, but you got TFA in this game.
I sure do. I'm not going away from them now. No chance. I mean, no chance, especially now I've seen Edgewater and how really good they are. They beat Edgewater. So that's really the only thing. And then all these bigger programs that they're playing, again, preseason did not see them being 6-0. I even said it would be crazy to think they were going to win more than 4 games. AJ said they're 6-4. They're already at 6 wins. I said 3-7, maybe 4-6 at best. They're 6-0, and they're arguably the best team in Central Florida on paper, resume. I mean, TFA. I hate that they're getting such negative press, but guys, a spade, they are for real. That team is a phenomenal football team. So I'm not picking against them, especially against a team from Georgia. I'm going TFA here in this victory. I believe they win by a couple of scores like every single game they played this year, besides the Edgewater game that was by 4. But my goodness, guys, I'm a fan. I'm a believer. And now that everything has come out, that things are starting to turn clean-wise, obviously there's still going to be speculation or whatever. I don't care. That's not what we do. We're just about stats and about facts. And TFA is a good football team, and they win Friday night.
AJ?
Yeah, I like TFA. I think that obviously, they had a lot of transfers. A lot of kids transferred over to TFA, so it was going to take some time for this team to gel and get better. But the reality is I've seen this team in 7-on-7 tournaments, win 7-on-7 tournaments against top schools, public schools. So, I mean, and in the trenches, shout out to Tank, Entrenchment Academy, but they have some of the best offensive defensive linemen in the area in the state. So when you have the skill plus the trenches and the coaching and the atmosphere, it breeds for a 6-0 start. So, yeah, I like TFA for sure.
Definitely interesting. All right, guys. Not number 7, but Matanzas Pirates come in at 3-3 and played Mount Dora Hurricanes. Guys, Coach Hutch has got them at 4-1.
Yeah, anytime that I see a logo or any representation of Hurricanes, I'm going that direction unless I've done my homework. So I'm going Mount Dora here, the Hurricanes, to win this football game. Now, Matanzas, on the other hand, that's a team that was a lot of people's homecoming games about 2 or 3 years ago, and they've kind of turned that program around. So this is no slouch over. This is going to be a competitive football game. Yes, it says 3-3 as a record, but you know, I love that Matanzas is very competitive. And if you look at their schedule, they have been in some pretty good ball games. And so this is not going to be an easy pushover match like it used to be back, 2-3 years ago when my cousin was at Lake Howell, where they just ran through Matanzas and it was homecoming games. But no, this team is for real now. And I like the culture change there. But Mount Dora, I just think with their logo as the Hurricanes, I think they're going to have a hurricane on Friday night and they're going to be all over Matanzas.
I don't want to talk about hurricanes anymore after last week. I mean, in all seriousness, the weather pattern is absolutely nuts. And actually, I think we're going to be spared this weekend because this new tropical storm that's coming up looks like it's not going to push in until Sunday. So we won't have any more rescheduled games where we've got teams ridiculously playing 3 games in 8 days, AJ.
Yeah, it's crazy. We will not – we'll get spared by a hurricane, but Matanzas unfortunately will not. Tamir Gaines will do Tamir Gaines things. You're looking at a young man who has 947 yards rushing. He's averaging 189 yards per game. Tamir Gaines is a running back that will do numbers for the rest of the season. And unfortunately, Matanzas, they're going to have to get theirs come Friday.
Well, guys, we got our Varsity Sports Nation game of the week. It looks like Ontavius and the crew are going to set up shop in College Park again. OCP at 2-4 is coming in to play those Hornets at 4-2, Baylin.
Yeah, I don't think OCP is going to win this football game, but I'm very impressed in how they played last week against TFA. I saw a lot of things on social media. I saw coaches calling out the team on John Young. I mean, at the end of the day, they got spanked. Yes, it was a close game, though. That's what I'm more impressed with. I believe going into the fourth quarter, it was a 1 or 2 point or maybe 1 possession game. So that's very impressive. But at the end of the day, they did lose 39 to, I believe, 13 or something like that. TFA is the real deal. I don't care what anybody says. But OCP, they show they can compete. They just need the depth. Bishop Moore coming off an emotional loss to a powerhouse program, top 10 program in the country. I think they bounce back, and I believe like AJ alluded to earlier, one of the teams, how a loss can really help a team. I think that loss has, motivated probably Bishop Moore to say, hey, we need to get back to our brand of football. And I think that Bishop Moore in this private school meeting here, I think they dominate in blowout fashion.
AJ, I think this is a matchup that really we haven't seen over the years. I think they really kind of rekindled this last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we haven't seen this matchup Bishop Moore, I mean, you normally play the bigger dogs, no offense to OCP, but they're a smaller brand. But you'll see Bishop Moore playing the Cardinal Gibbons and those type of schools, private schools. But OCP has proven year in and year out. I remember a couple years ago, they went up and beat Jacksonville Trinity. So that's when I really started to say, man, OCP could play some football. But I think that Bishop Moore will just be a little too much for them on Friday. They're at home. They're in their comfort spot after a defeat. So, yeah, I like Bishop Moore to bounce back for sure.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I love Kevin Anderson over at OCP. I love what Coach D and all the coaches, Coach Ramers over at OCP now, I love what they've done over the years, and they're always going to be competitive. I think this is going to be an exciting game. So let's see. Everybody can watch that right here on Varsity Sports Nation, on YouTube, and on Facebook. So tune in. And then we got another game. We got Norland coming into Cocoa live on Brevard Sports Network. Baylin. Norland's at 4-1. They're getting a lot of pub right now. But like you said, Coco's 2 losses are against top-tier programs.
Yeah. Now, with the rankings come out, they're number 1 and number 2 in the state of Florida. IMG number 1, number 2 is Venice. So, and then number 3 is Lakeland. I mean, those are the top dogs. And Cocoa, unfortunately, those 2 losses were against number 1 and number 2 in the state, according to On3 rankings. We all have opinions about those things anyways, but at the end of the day, I believe Cocoa is the better football team here. That's a game that I'm going to be at, so I will be on the sideline here. I believe AJ may join me on this one. I think, Dan, you're going to another game. You're going to the TFA
Yeah, I'll be
game.
at the TFA Rayburn Gap game, actually.
Yeah. So I'll be at this football game. I'm excited to see this live in person. It's my first time seeing Brady Hart this season on the sideline, so I'm excited to get footage of that and watch him put on a show against a powerhouse program in Norland. Norland's quarterback is legit. I believe he's a lot of that success for that program, especially the last couple of years. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in person. There's a lot of hype with him down south, but I believe Cocoa is the better football team. I believe Cocoa dominates this game. I believe it's close early, and I believe in the second half they pull away here and they win by a couple scores. I love Cocoa Tigers. I love Coach Franco, Coach Snyder, what they got rolling on. And I believe they're hungry and they're thirsty for a big statement win. And this is the one that's coming up here this Friday night.
I tell you what, this is going to be exciting to see what this final score is. This could definitely be a big win for both programs. Like I said, we're getting into that playoff run, and every game is going to count in that points ranking. As they start lining up that bracket, because there's a big difference between being a first seed and a third seed going into this thing. All right, guys, that is it for week 7. Baylin.
AJ could get his turn talking about that football game.
My bad.
Yeah, because I picked Norland. I'm sorry, I picked Norland. I know people gonna say like, "Oh, this guy he's a sellout," but unfortunately I did pick Norland. Just so that the folks out there know.
Don't change it now, AJ. Don't change it.
I'm not changing it. It was I know Dan.
None of that, because we're gonna be there.
No, Dan is a hard-working man. I know he just made a mistake, but I picked Norland in this matchup. Just want to put that out there. I'll be at the game. So
thank you, AJ, by the way. Thank you, AJ.
Anybody from Cocoa wants to get on me, I know they'll see me live. And in fact, I'll be there Friday. But I just think that Norland, I mean, you talking about a team that went 14-1 last year in Miami, in Dade County. And we call a spade a spade. Dade County is the best football in the country, pound for pound. This team was upset in the state championship last year. So I love everything about Cocoa. But I just think that Norland is for real. They're a legit team. It doesn't hurt Cocoa state championship run, but I do think that they will lose Friday.
You know who we should have brought on tonight, and maybe we'll have him on next week to talk about this game, is our boy Coach Hayes, man. He's a Norland Viking.
Hayes with the Norland? I didn't know that.
He coached there, I know, for a while.
I think he was a coach at Norland. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, we ain't seen Coach Hayes in a while, man. We gotta get Coach Hayes on the show.
He's too busy talking about the Miami Hurricanes every single week, because there's a lot to talk about with them boys.
He is, dude. Hey, my man's got a show every night of the week. If you guys ever catch, go to CoachHayesFootball.com. Go to the YouTube, Coach Hayes Football. My man's got shows running all the time. All right, guys, that is it.
Man,
Baylin, final thoughts.
Yeah, final thoughts. I would like to close with this. I want to talk about Windermere real quick, man. With the job that Ricky Smith has done, that was the silent killing team that I had told everybody about. Ricky didn't want me to mention this to anybody before the season because obviously they entered into the independent league. And, Ricky, the last couple of years has been taking notes. And every single program that it was on their schedule that they have beaten Windermere. And so he knew at some point he was going to have a breakthrough. He was going to buy into this program. He was going to get the right talent to come in. And I'm telling you what, they're 6-0, and every single game has been a blowout. It hasn't been close. Now, Colonial's game was close. It was 14-12. They're going to actually make up that game, the remainder of that game, on Monday night. So if you want to see the ending of that game, go out to, I believe, Colonial on Monday, and you're going to see about 6 minutes of football. But other than that, Windermere is rolling right now. Jack Riley, the quarterback I trained, he's a senior, transferred from Chicago, Illinois, was at West Orange last year. 20 touchdowns in 6 games with, I believe, 1 or 2 interceptions. Unbelievable stat line there. They're rolling offensively. Speed, the receiver out there, is legit. They have a track runner out there that has 19 scholarship offers. Just came back from injury. It was a transfer from, I believe, Foundation.
Yeah, CJ Bronow. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that kid is electric. I love Windermere. Coach Ricky, again, told me, because I would go to their school and train on their campus and see them practice and talk to the coaches. And I was like, okay, this team is going to be pretty special in that independent league. You better be careful. But he never wanted that information to get out because he wanted to take notes and get back every single team that would run the score up on them. And now they're the ones doing that. And it's funny because this past week in their homecoming game, their first ever win on that program's school history on campus, their field opened up for their homecoming against Lake Buena Vista. They were up 42-7 in the fourth with about a minute and a half left. They threw a 40-yard bomb, and the refs just held the ball and said the game's over. But Ricky remembers all those times that those same teams were pouring it on Windermere and laughing at them, but now it's their turn. So I want to give a big shout-out to Ricky Smith, what he's done with that program, the change of culture there. Windermere is a legit football program. If they keep winning like this, guys, they might not be in the independent league in 2 years. But, I mean, oh, my goodness. I love watching this team, and I love what Jack Riley's doing. So shout out to him. And he was also your other Orlando Touchdown Club player of the week last week with 3 touchdowns, 244 yards on homecoming. What a great week and weekend it has been for Windermere.
AJ?
Yes, sir. I want to give out a special shout out to 4 running backs. Jamarion Robinson of Ocoee. He's been having a monster season, averaging 130 yards a game. He's dynamic. He's the real deal. Number 2, Jaquel Smith at Jones. He's averaging 136 yards per game. He has over 800 yards already. And then number 3 is Cam Oliver. He's at Evans. He is a dynamite, a dynamic athlete. He's a give it to you on the running end and as a receiver. And then last but not least, Uriah Maynard at East Ridge. This guy already has 1,000 yards. You talk about a running back 5-6 games in, and they already over 1,000 yards. He's averaging 167 yards per game. Kid is dynamic. So I want to give a shout out to those 4 senior running backs. Congratulations, fellas. Keep up the good work.
No doubt about it. I know we can possibly count on seeing at least most of those guys in Elite 100 All-Star game in January. I want to give a special shout out. How about the freshman quarterback at Faith Christian? 7-10 on the field this week. 7 of those completions were for 6 touchdowns.
Wow. I didn't hear about this one.
Shout out to Coach Carrington over at Faith Christian. He's got a special young man he's going to be developing. All right, guys, that's it. So my final thoughts are this. It is time to lock and load. It is week 7. It's time to buckle down. It's time to start thinking about how you finish this season and get ready for the playoffs. Guys, you're watching the Central Florida High School Scoreboard Show, and we will see you next week.